15 games into the season and Cleveland is somehow still undefeated. Obviously, no one expected this. Of course, the Cavs are going to be a playoff team fighting for a top 4 seed in the East, but to be undefeated, this is one of the best starts in NBA history.
Yeah, and when you see how far they've come since LeBron left them in 2018 for the Lakers, I mean, they struggled for the first couple of years, but man, Kobe Altman righted that ship and he's got them just storming ahead right now.
Before we get into how the Cavs rebuilt after LeBron left, please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on any new videos.
But first, a word from the sponsor of today's video, Raycon. Raycon offers top quality earbuds at a price starting at just half of some of their competitors. And that's before you factor in their Black Friday sale, where they are offering up to 30% off everything site-wide. Raycon earbuds come with active noise cancellation, a 32-hour battery life, a lightning quick charging time, and they're weatherproof and sweat resistant. Really helps if you live up here in the Pacific Northwest. But beyond just keeping my ears entertained while it's raining, they are extremely comfortable to wear. Whether I'm editing our next retrospective, out working on my jump shot. By the way, first take right there. I don't want to see any comments like, oh, he was out there for hours. First take right there. Or playing with my little buddy Charles. Never got to worry about them falling out, and they're always comfortable. They also come with a nice little protective case. I personally went with the Galaxy one because despite what Olivia Rodrigo might tell you, space is awesome.
Oh, it's beautiful.
So it's time to save big for Black Friday. Head to buyraycon.com/synthetic today to get up to 30% off everything site-wide. Once again, that's buyraycon.com/synthetic and get up to 30% off everything site-wide. Now's the perfect time to try Raycon, and if you're not fully satisfied, Raycon offers a 30-day happiness guarantee. So if you're looking for some top-of-the-line earbuds at an affordable price, check out Raycon, and thank you, Raycon, for supporting us here at Synthetic Sports.
After getting swept in the 2018 finals, it was pretty clear LeBron was on his way out of Cleveland. And could you really blame him? The supporting cast was just awful. It's insane he even dragged the team to the finals. Like, you had Kevin Love, who was technically an all-star, but just never quite showed up in the finals. J.R. Smith, who could torch teams when he was hot, but on other nights could play you out of games. And of course, he just completely choked game 1 of the finals. You had George Hill, who was okay, and also choked game 1 of the finals.
He did.
Rodney Hood, never quite consistent. And then like Tristan Thompson, Larry Nance Jr., Jordan Clarkson. Outside of LeBron, you can't depend on any of those dudes.
You can depend on Kevin Love to give you like 18 a night.
True.
But that's it. That's it. Unlike last time, though, the Cavs seemingly had a little bit of insurance because they had Brooklyn's unprotected first-round pick that they got in the Kyrie and Isaiah Thomas trade. A trade, by the way, that benefited nobody in hindsight. Terrible trade. But with the 8th pick in the 2018 draft, they take Colin Sexton out of Alabama. Looked like a decent pick at the time. Sexton had a really good year at Alabama, averaged like 25 points a game, was very famously in that game against Minnesota where Alabama was down to their last 3 players. They had to play 3-on-5 for a significant portion of the game and almost won.
With the benefit of hindsight, though, they could have gotten some much better players. Mikal Bridges goes a couple picks later. The pick after Mikal is Shea.
Oof.
And then you also had guys like Dante DiVincenzo. I know Anthony Simons went later in this draft. It's easy to say, but they could have done better. But given the fact they used him in the Donovan Mitchell trade we'll talk about later, I don't think any Cavs fans really care. So it turned out fine. They didn't have their pick in the draft this year, so Colin Sexton was the only guy they brought in. LeBron leaves in free agency to the Lakers. To me, I knew it was going to happen. I know you didn't want to accept it as just the #1 Lakers hater, but it was going to happen.
I was up at my family's lake house about to go out on the boat, saw the tweet, and it ruined my entire day. Also, I guess Colin Sexton's pitch at the draft. Hey, LeBron, let's go back to the finals. Didn't really work.
No, they did him dirty even asking that question.
You have to ask him that, but what a bad position to be put in.
Yeah.
Really surprised us about the Cavs, though, this offseason is they decided to give Kevin Love a 4-year, $120 million contract extension. Now, he was going to be 30 by the time the new season started. Like, I guess you don't want to lose, both of your best players in one season, and maybe you're thinking like, oh, we can bring him back and then maybe we can trade him for something, but why?
I don't really get it. Yeah, maybe that was it, or maybe they were just so scarred by the last time LeBron left that they were like, let's just keep someone we know can like score 17 a night. Just like do something. I guess that was it. I was, pretty surprised by that. Besides that, they didn't really do much this offseason. Re-signed Rodney Hood, re-signed Larry Nance, brought back Channing Frye after they just traded him. Kind of funny, but they were expected to be one of, if not the worst team in the NBA going into next season.
Yeah, not surprisingly, the season started and this team was terrible. They started 0-6, which caused Ty Lue to lose his job, which pretty shocking and honestly kind of an unfair firing. I mean, he had brought your franchise their first ever championship, 3 straight finals appearances, a 128-83 record. I mean, there was the narrative out there that, oh, he was carried by LeBron, but 6 games into the season with a pretty shit roster?
Yeah, that's the insane part about it. I was looking if there was some sort of scandal or something. I couldn't find much. I don't know. Maybe it's easier to say now that Ty Lue went to the Clippers and is proven to be one of the better coaches in the NBA, but this was pretty shocking. Larry Drew takes over and he wasn't really better. I mean, he got them some wins, but they finished 19-63. Only real bright spots you could take from the season, Colin Sexton was pretty good in his rookie campaign, averaged almost 17 points a night, finished 5th in Rookie of the Year. Cedi Osman, if you remember him, he was pretty good as a full-time starter, and Jordan Clarkson was solid off the bench. And you bring back Delly, the Curry stopper, so...
To stop Curry, twice a year now?
Yeah, exactly.
You're not seeing him in the finals again.
And on the other hand, their veterans were banged up or they just quit on the team. You had Kevin Love, who missed like 4 months of the season. Tristan Thompson played a career low 43 games. And then J.R. Smith in November was like, I'm just done. Done playing here.
These checks aren't worth it.
Yeah.
2019 offseason, obviously, before the NBA draft, everyone was wondering, who's going to win the Zion sweepstakes? And the Cavs didn't do too well for themselves. They fell all the way back to the 5th pick. Don't really feel bad for them, considering they got 3 number 1 picks in 4 years back in the early 2010s. So you know what? Deal with the 5th pick, okay?
Yeah, and to give credit to them, they did a really good job.
Did a great job,
They take Darius Garland, who's actually one of only 3 All-Stars in this draft. You had Zion, who went 1, made an All-Star team. Ja, who went 2, also an All-Star. And then you had Darius Garland at 5. I knew nothing about him, but I remember his player comp was Damian Lillard. And I'm like, this dude's gonna be good.
You're all in.
Yeah, apparently he could shoot, score a bit, facilitate. I loved like scoring combo guards around this time, like not as much anymore, but around this time, like I saw Dame, I saw Steph, I saw Trey. I was like, this is the future. The one thing that was a big question mark though is you have Darius Garland, who's 6'1", you're pairing him with Colin Sexton, who is 6'3". The fit didn't make any sense. Could be a sign of like the future. They weren't sold on Colin Sexton, but at the very least, I thought Darius Garland was a great pick.
Cavs also had a late 1st round pick from Houston that they used to take Dylan Windler. Who the is that?
I don't know.
Cavs fans, do you even know who that is?
Yeah, I don't know if they do, but if they do, enlighten us in the comments. And then on top of that, they traded into the draft to get Kevin Porter Jr., sent out a bunch of seconds to get him. I mean, at first he was scoring a bit, but he didn't work out either.
Nope.
Not really fault of the Cavs. That's more of a personal issue on his part.
They also signed Dean Wade as an undrafted free agent, which, is he a massive difference maker? No, but he's a dependable starter. He can shoot the ball. And the fact that you get him for nothing, don't have to waste a pick on him or anything, pretty good pickup, honestly.
I mean, he torched the Celtics in that one game, dropped like 20 in the 4th quarter, so he can get hot, solid player. And of course, like you said, you don't have to give anything to get him. On the other hand, they made an awful move by hiring John Beilein to be their next head coach. It's always risky when you bring in a college head coach. He did have a lot of success at Michigan, but can you translate to the NBA and kind of ditch that whole like college style where you're coaching like 19-year-olds?
This guy couldn't.
Absolutely not. And on top of that, a little scandal we'll talk about more. During a film session this year, he stated to the Cavs team, "See, you guys are no longer playing like a bunch of thugs." Yikes. Apparently his defense was he meant slugs? Yeah, no. No, like
that's not gonna hold up in court, Your Honor.
Absolutely not.
I mean, this dude was like the stereotypical college coach who runs his program like a drill sergeant, screaming at players, just is a dick to everyone, runs it with an iron fist. Like, buddy, that ain't gonna work in the NBA.
Yeah.
When, the players have all the power in the NBA. If the star player doesn't like you, you're gonna be on the next flight home.
In free agency, they really didn't do much. Gave Cedi Osman a contract extension, waived J.R. Smith, couldn't find a trade partner for for him. So once again, they were predicted to be one of, again, if not the worst team in the NBA.
And once again, they were one of, if not the worst teams in the NBA. I mean, they got a little bit better. They won 19 games again, but this was the pandemic shortened season. So, you know, better winning percentage. But, you know, when John Beilein was around, it was tough. Kevin Love just looked miserable. There was one moment when they were playing OKC where he was just visibly pissed at Colin Sexton for just like dribbling out the clock up at half court, not really doing anything. Gets the ball from him and then rifles a pass to Cedi Osman. Cedi's probably there thinking like, did I do?
Yeah.
What do you say me for?
I know that pass had to hurt.
Oh, yeah. He's coming back to the bench. His hand is stinging after that.
Darius Garland really struggled his rookie season. I mean, it's common for, you know, first year young, like scoring guards. We saw it with Scoot. 40% from the field. Like, that's not a good look. Really, the only bright spot was Colin Sexton continued to improve, up to scoring to almost 21 points a night. Randomly, they brought in Andre Drummond in February and he had a couple monster games, but
who would have thought the Cavs in 2020, buyers in the trade market?
They were desperate. John Beilein gets fired after leading them to a 14-40 record. Of course, that whole thug slugs thing, I don't think helped either.
You think?
Yeah, I don't think at all. I remember that was like a huge like national story. They promote JB Bickerstaff to be their head coach, which was a good move, at least at first. Didn't really end well. He's able to lead them to a 5-6 finish to end the year, but you're now on your 4th coach in the past 2 seasons. Not a good look.
Just a picture of stability.
Yeah.
Cavs finished with the 2nd worst record in the NBA. Obviously, you're not getting that bubble invite. You know, you can stay at home for now, okay? Once again, not very lucky in the draft lottery. 5th pick in the row for the 2nd straight year. Still don't really feel bad for him. And they used that pick to take Isaac Okoro out of Auburn, which, you know, he's been fine. You know, he's been a starter for most of his career, but still not really the kind of player you want to land with the 5th pick.
Yeah, I mean, at least he's still on the team, and at least, yeah, he's still dependable, because you can't say that about every, like, 5th pick or top 5 pick.
That's not a very high bar to clear, though.
Yeah, to be fair, but, you know, a fine player. Once again, pretty quiet offseason, though. You trade Jordan Bell and Alfonso McKinney for JaVale, and that's about it. And then in 2021, it was more of the same for the Cavs. Technically, they were better. This season, they won 22 games, so, you know, slowly improving.
Always a good sign when you're saying, technically, they were better.
Once again, Kevin Love's out here throwing tantrums. There was the game against the Raptors where the ref like passes him the ball to inbounds it, and then he just slaps it on the ground. Leads to a wide open 3 from Malachi Flynn. Like, I was just kind of shocked Kevin Love was doing this stuff, because you really don't expect it out of him.
Yeah, I mean, I remember LeBron's last year in Cleveland when all the stuff with like him and Isaiah Thomas was going down. Like, apparently there was some heated team meetings or anything, but you never like heard any stories about Love like throwing tantrums or anything.
Right.
You think at this point, like, you know, he's in his early 30s, he's a veteran, like he's been around the block, he's been on good teams, he's been on bad teams. I get it, no one likes losing, but Stu was just like visibly miserable all of the time.
Yeah. The bright spot though was Sexton and Garland continuing to improve, so that was good. Okoro proved to be a very good defender in his rookie season. And most importantly, the big thing that happened this season, they acquired Jared Allen, that 4-team deal that sent Harden to the Nets. Apparently the Rockets could have had Jared Allen, Taurean Prince, but Jared Allen, they knew they were going to have to pay him, and Taurean Prince had a bad deal, so they preferred the Bucks 2022 first-round pick, a late first-round pick, instead of a guy who was a future all-star and a very good two-way center. But of course, you know, they had Christian Wood at the time.
Oh,
so.
Yeah, center of the future, right?
Yeah, they were set at center. They were fine.
Incredible trade for the Cavs, though. I mean, you give up a late first-round pick and you get back a future all-star, one of the best two-way centers in the league.
They weren't done with that moves, though. They also sent out Kevin Porter Jr. to the Rockets in a separate deal, and of course, the dude had too many off-court issues.
Still does have too many off-court issues.
Still has those. And weirdly, they also acquired Isaiah Hartenstein. They sent out JaVale at one point. Isaiah Hartenstein, just such a weird guy. He's been on so many teams. I'm sure a lot of teams regret not keeping him, but just your classic guy who bounces around, eventually finds his home.
And then gets a massive contract.
Yeah. And overall, like, my feeling at the time around this Cavs team was they can't win without LeBron.
Can't do anything without him.
Like, LeBron's there for that first stint. They make the finals. They have some great records. He leaves. They're god-awful. He comes back. You go to 4 straight finals. Leaves again. You're awful again. And if you look at their history, like, they had some good teams, I think in, like, the late 70s. Of course, like, in the late 80s, early 90s, you had Mark Mark Price, Larry Nance, Brad Daugherty. They were good then, but really outside of LeBron being there, they're kind of a poverty franchise, and that's kind of how I felt they were at the time.
Hell, even when LeBron was there, they weren't good at building the team around him.
Absolutely.
Like, outside of LeBron, like, LeBron is literally the only thing keeping the Cavs from, like, being the Hornets.
Yeah.
Sorry, Hornets fans.
It's true.
Cavs started to prove us wrong a little bit, though, because they immediately started turning things around. First off, they got the 3rd pick in the 2021 NBA draft, used it to take Evan Mobley out of USC. Phenomenal pick. Mobley has been one of the best defenders in the NBA. He's improved his offense, you know, steadily every season, maybe not quite at the rate they were looking for, but still a really good two-way player. Sent out Taurean Prince for Ricky Rubio, who struggled to stay healthy, but was really good when he did play for Cleveland. Inked Jared Allen to a 5-year, $100 million extension. Kind of seemed like a risk at the time, but Allen has definitely lived up to it. And they also traded Larry Nance Jr. and a 2nd-round pick in a 3-team deal that netted them back Lauri Markkanen.
That's insane. Incredible deal. And just Kobe Altman was just...
He was cooking.
Yeah, working the phones, just cooking up insane deals. And I got to give him a lot of credit for seeing like, okay, the future of the NBA is kind of like these longer, bigger front courts, bigger teams that can play defense. Like
deeper teams too.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the Lakers had just won their title. They had LeBron and AD and then like JaVale, Dwight. The Bucks had won their title with Giannis and Brook. Like a lot of teams were moving to that smaller ball because the Warriors were so successful. To a lesser extent, the Rockets were successful, but gotta give them a lot of credit for seeing like the front courts were a thing the NBA was moving to and adding these guys who could play defense and building a deep team around their stars. But this season was the year the Cavs finally turned things around. They started 6-4, but unfortunately Colin Sexton, their 11th game versus the Knicks, he goes down with a torn meniscus. He misses the rest of the season. Ricky Rubio, though, steps up big time. He was actually really good for this Cavs team. They were 20-13 after 33 games. Garland was also incredible. I think in some ways it kind of helped Garland's development to be like the lone scoring guard back there. Evan Mobley was getting high praise for his defense. Jared Allen also anchoring that defense. Kevin Love even finally seemed happy again.
Well, they were winning again.
Things were going great, but then, unfortunately, this team just got decimated by injuries.
Yeah, Rubio tore his ACL in late December. Garland was dealing with a back injury that caused him to miss some games. So they decided to bring in Rondo in a trade with the Lakers to, you know, get some relief at point guard. And they also brought in Karis LeVert by sending a couple picks and Rubio's expiring deal to the Heat. It always feels so weird to me that this was Rajon Rondo's NBA swan song. He played like 20 games for them, and that's it.
It's so random. I mean, Rondo played for so many damn teams, and even until his veteran years, he was pretty good, but just a really weird stop, especially because LeBron was already gone at this point. Still, though, going to the All-Star break, they were doing pretty good, 35-23 record. All-Star weekend was in Cleveland. You had Jared Allen and Darius Garland both named All-Stars.
And yet LeBron outshined them.
Yeah, I mean, what'd you expect?
It's LeBron in Cleveland.
LeBron in his hometown, he was gonna do that. And then after the All-Star break, once again, they're hit with injuries. LeVert missed 2 weeks with a foot injury. Garland again missed some time. Jared Allen had a fractured middle finger. He missed the rest of the season. Dean Wade tore his meniscus. Evan Mobley had an ankle sprain. I mean, they were just insanely beat up. They fall all the way down to the 8th seed, make the play-in, but then they had to play the Nets. The Nets team with KD and Kyrie, they get beat in Brooklyn, and then they lose to the Hawks at home. I mean, a tough way to go out because it really looked like this was going to be the year. They were going back to the postseason, but still a lot of positives to take from this year.
During the draft, they drafted Ochai Agbaji out of Kansas. He actually would never end up playing for Cleveland because a couple of months later, he was used in a trade package that landed them Donovan Mitchell. They sent out Colin Sexton, Lauri Markkanen, 3 first-round picks, and a pick swap. I mean, look, it's a big package, but Mitchell is a good player.
Oh yeah, Mitchell is like a top 15 player, at least this year he is. It did feel like a risk though, because could you convince Mitchell to stay in Cleveland? Obviously LeBron left there twice and it was his hometown. Kyrie dipped. Kevin Love, I guess, stayed, but the rumor was Mitchell wanted to play in New York, and that was a rumor that would continue from years on. But if you can get a guy like Mitchell's caliber, I say you do it. You're Cleveland, you're a small market. It ended up being a fantastic trade given what's happened since then. They also bring back Ricky Rubio in free agency. They signed Robin Lopez. A great offseason for them, especially because you obviously get your centerpiece moving forward.
They had a great start to the 22-23 season. They started 8-1. That included 3 wins in overtime at the beginning of the season. They would, cool off a little bit, but they would still end up having a very good season, mainly because they were one of, if not the best defensive team in the league. Evan Mobley, who got a ton of praise his rookie year for being a great defender, continued to improve on that end, even finished 3rd in Defensive Player of the Year voting. Overall, the Cavs had the best defensive rating in the league, so clearly that Twin Towers experiment of Jared Allen and Evan Mobley was working out. And on top of that, you bring in Donovan Mitchell. He's gonna improve your offense. I mean, you bring in a guy who can average 28 a night. That'll do something for your offense.
Yeah, Garland also gave him over 20 a night. They had 5 players average double figures. Do gotta mention Kevin Love's time in Cleveland. It would officially end this season. He got waived in February, of course, went to the Heat. I mean, he wasn't really doing a lot for them. It was probably time to move on, but obviously Cavs fans are gonna remember him fondly. At the very least, just because the dude locked up Steph in Game 7 of the 2016 NBA Finals. Kevin Love, known for a guy who can't really play defense in general, somehow clamped up Steph.
Much less perimeter defense.
Yeah, when it mattered most.
I mean, people talk about like the whole meme of, if the Martians have the death ray, put it at the earth, you want Iguodala taking that shot. Well, I want Kevin Love out on the perimeter playing defense.
Cavs finished the season winning 51 games. Their first 51 season without LeBron since 1993. Crazy stuff. They're making history in Cleveland. Got them the 4 seed. They matched up with the Knicks in the first round, but I gotta say, they were disappointing. Like, I get it, young team, first year playing in the playoffs, but you lose to the Knicks on your home court in 5 games. It kind of soured the incredible season a little bit. I mean, it definitely did.
It really did. Honestly, I wouldn't feel that way if they had just lost in 6 games.
Yeah.
Because, that happens sometimes in the playoff. You drop a home game and then you can't get one back on the road. Like, that happens, especially for young teams. The fact that they lost twice at home, went down in 5 to a Knicks team that on paper was not that much better than them, I don't think. Yeah, so definitely a disappointing way to go out your first year with Donovan Mitchell after you gave up so much to bring him in.
They didn't have their first round pick, but they did draft Imani Bates out of Eastern Michigan. Weirdly, he was a 5-star prospect coming out of high school, originally went to Memphis.
Not only was he a 5-star prospect, he was like one of the most hyped high school prospects in like recent memory. I mean, I remember hearing about him when he was like a sophomore and a junior. People were like, oh, he's going to be the #1 pick in the draft or whatever.
Yeah, so he at least had a little bit of hype, but he really hasn't done much for them. He only played 15 games last year, spent some time in the G League. He's been injured this year, but again, it's a 2nd-round pick. Might as well take a risk on a guy with that talent. Besides that, they re-signed Karis LeVert and Ty Jerome to multi-year deals, traded for Max Strus in a 3-team deal that sent out Cedi Osman as well.
Hated that trade, if I'm being honest.
Really?
Yes. I'm so biased against guys who do well, like for Miami or like for the Spurs back in the day. Like, I remember just like guys that would play so well for Popovich and like the Duncan Spurs, and then they'd go to another team and just fall off a cliff. I remember Jonathan Simmons for the Spurs. Like, he looked like he was going to be like a low-key like star, left the Spurs and just disappeared. So I was like, I mean, mighty big risk bringing in a guy who played well for the game. We've seen what happened with like Gabe Vincent. Dude cannot play outside that Miami system, but Max Strus has been pretty good for the
he's been pretty good. He hasn't played this season, been dealing with an injury, but last season he was really good. They also brought in George Niang because a big reason they failed in the playoffs the previous year was they didn't have 3-point shooting. They wanted to add guys who could spot up, shoot the 3 ball, and they also brought back Cavs legend, I guess? Champion? Cavs champion?
Cavs champion.
Yeah, Tristan Thompson, still on the team to this day. So, I liked what they did this offseason. You already had your stars, your core players. Now you're bringing in supporting pieces to make the team deep.
In the 23-24 season, the Cavs had a bit of a rough start to the season. They were just 1-3, kind of hovered around 500 for the first 6 weeks of the season or so. Once again, they were hit really hard by injuries in December. Darius Garland broke his jaw and would go on to miss 19 games. On top of that, he lost a ton of weight because he had to consume an all-liquid diet, which never had to do, obviously, but just sounds miserable.
Yeah, that does not sound good. Evan Mobley misses 22 games after getting knee surgery. Credit to Donovan Mitchell and Jared Allen for just keeping this team alive, keeping them in playoff contention. Some young guys stepped up as well. Sam Merrill, Craig Porter Jr., they get shout outs as well. But after Garland and Mobley came back, they were red hot going to the All-Star break. Won 18 of 20 games going to the break. Donovan Mitchell once again was an All-Star. Post All-Star break kind of up and down. They finished with 48 wins, 3 less than last year. year, and they get the same spot. They're the 4th seed again, this time matching up with the Orlando Magic. And I remember going to this series, I was like, this is a must-win series for this Cavs team.
Oh yeah.
You disappoint last year versus the Knicks, you're playing a very young Magic team. You have some playoff experience now. They had to win this series, and it took long. It took to game 7, but they did win the series.
Better late than never.
Yes.
At least they got it done. Now, they were no match for Boston.
No.
In the next round. Boston just stomped them out. Mitchell was only able to play 3 games after suffering a calf injury. And I mean, the Celtics were too much for everybody this year. So they were clearly going to be too much for Cleveland. And weirdly enough, like, the vibes around this team at the end of the season, just not very good. Like, apparently the players just hated JB Bickerstaff.
Yeah.
Like, there were other players that thought, oh, Jared Allen, like, should have been able to power through an injury. Marcus Morris even said that if he was in Allen's position, like, he would have played. I mean, there were still questions up in the air about Mitchell and his extension and, you know, maybe becoming a free agent after the 25 season. So, and I just did not get this. Like,
it was random.
It was so random. It's like, you guys did better than the year before. You won a playoff series and you lost in 5 to the #1 seed that won 64 games. Like, why is everybody miserable?
I don't know. You never know what goes on behind the scenes. They quickly address their head coaching vacancy, hire Kenny Atkinson, a terrific hire, especially considering how well he's done so far. Of course, he was the Nets head coach in the late 2010s, didn't have a lot of success there, but he spent some time as an assistant, won a title with the Warriors. So he was overdue to get a head coaching job, and he's flourished in his role so far. And then Donovan Mitchell got that extension, a 3-year, $150 million deal. Of course, there were all the rumors. He wanted to go to the Knicks, and the Knicks had their own things going on, so maybe that played a part, but you lock up your guy. Again, just a great offseason because you're reassuring everything. It looked like for a moment after the season, there was all this panic, there was chaos. You get your new head coach, you lock up Donovan Mitchell, suddenly things are all fine again.
Yeah, I mean, so far this season, the Cavs have blown any and all expectations out of the water. I don't think even the most optimistic Cavalier fans could have possibly seen this start to the season coming. And like, with the lead they've built themselves and how weak the bottom, like, half of the East has been so far, they're probably at worst going to be the 2nd seed going into the playoffs.
Yeah, and I'm sure, like, Cavs fans believe, and a lot of people might believe, they might get the 1st seed.
Yeah.
Like, we're recording this on Friday. They absolutely torched the Bulls in the first quarter, dropped 49 points on them. I think there's a very good chance they're undefeated by the time this goes up on Monday. I mean, I'm still not picking them over the Celtics. I'm sorry, Cavs fans. You're probably disliking the video if you stayed this long.
And
but
Celtics fans are now liking the video.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The Celtics still are the team to beat, but I'm just shocked that the Cavs are this good because we've never seen them this good without LeBron James on the roster.
Without a certain somebody on the roster.
So what do you guys think? Are the Cavs, they going undefeated all year? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, and hey, while you're here, check out some of our other content as well. And don't forget to subscribe to Synthetic Sports.